Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're trying something, well, a bit different. We've got this stack of notes, essentially, about biological bits and pieces. And our mission, our deep dive today, is to see how these seemingly separate parts of the body can actually tell a story. How they symbolize aspects of this specific subpersonality we're calling Val.
Yeah, it's a really cool premise. We're going to look at four quite distinct biological things: hair, the intestines, the prefrontal cortex, and we're even going down to the cellular nucleus. And the idea is to bridge their, scientific job with all the cultural, symbolic, sort of emotional weight they carry, all through the lens of Val. So it's not just anatomy class. It's about digging into meaning, seeing how these parts build a bigger picture of, well, self.
Okay, so if we're starting this journey with Val, where better to begin than hair? It's something we all deal with, right? We know it protects us, maybe keeps us warm, but it's just so visible, such a statement about who we are.
Absolutely. And biologically, it's doing more than you might think. Yes,
Yeah.
protection from sun, temperature regulation, insulation, but it's also sensory. Each follicle has nerve endings. So your hair can feel like the slightest breeze or something brushing past.
Mhm.
It's not strictly vital for survival anymore, perhaps, but it's huge for social signals, for expressing identity.
Wow, okay, so even a tiny movement sends a signal. That's interesting.
Exactly. And it's tied into our hormones, obviously, our nervous system via touch, and the whole integumentary system, the skin. Humans have a bit of a strange hair story, evolution-wise. We lost most body hair probably for cooling, fewer parasites, but kept the scalp hair. And we have the most diverse hair types and styling habits of any mammal.
Yeah.
Really reflects our social complexity. Health-wise, it can be a telltale sign. Stress, for instance, often shows up as hair loss. And it's so linked to identity that, historically, things like forced shaving have been used to inflict trauma.
Right, and that brings us straight into the symbolism, doesn't it? How does it become more than just biology? It's packed with meaning.
Oh, completely. Symbolically, hair can mean identity, power. You mentioned Samson,
Yep.
classic example, but also rebellion, purity, seduction, even grief. You see it in rituals like tonsure monks shaving heads for humility,
Yeah.
or hair offerings in Hinduism, a sign of devotion. Our language is full of it too. Let your hair down, hair raising, split hairs.
Not a hair out of place.
Exactly. Buy a hair. All these phrases show how deeply ingrained it is.
And it's just fundamental for personal style. A haircut can feel like a massive shift, a new beginning almost.
Totally defines personal style. And it's huge in expressing sexuality, gender. Long hair often reads feminine in many places. Short or shaved can be rebellious or disciplined. A major haircut often signals a big personal change, letting go of something. You see it in movies all the time, right? The dramatic haircut signifies a turning point or maybe trauma recovery.
Okay, so let's tie this back to Val. For her, what's the specific meaning of her hair?
For Val, her hair is like her banner. It's personal expression, yes, but also identity in flux. It connects her to her past, her ancestry, but it's also about how she moves forward. Imagine her on a mountain peak. Hair flying. It's freedom, the journey. Bound tight. That's focus, maybe struggle. It shows her adaptability. Honoring heritage, but shaping her own future. Emotionally, it could signal she's ready for something new, or processing loss, or rebirth. It's change, but driven by purpose, not just looks.
All right, from the visible banner to something much more hidden. Let's dive deep into the intestines. Maybe not the most glamorous part, often overlooked, but incredibly vital. Let's think beyond just digestion.
Yeah, it's a great challenge because they are absolutely vital and way more complex than just a food tube. Obviously, their main job is digestion and absorption, getting nutrients, water, getting rid of waste. But they do so much more. They house a huge chunk of our immune system, the gut-associated lymphoid tissue. They act like an endocrine organ, releasing hormones. And most importantly for this discussion, the gut-brain axis, that deep connection to the brain. So functionally, they're processors, regulators, deciding what comes in, what stays out.
Like an internal storing office.
Yeah.
An alchemist, like you said, transforming things.
Exactly. You get the small intestine, long folded, maximizing nutrient uptake. Then the large intestine, wider, focused on water and forming waste. And they don't work alone. They need the stomach, pancreas, liver. Evolutionarily, guts are ancient. Nearly all animals have them. But the human gut, with its specific microbiome, its bacteria, that reflects our diet, our history as omnivores. And when things go wrong, IBS, Crohn's, celiac. It's not just digestive upset. It can impact everything: mood, immunity, even clarity of thought. Brain fog is a real thing linked to gut health.
Which leads us perfectly into that symbolic meaning. We talk about the gut all the time in ways that have nothing to do with food, don't we?
We absolutely do. Symbolically, the gut is often called the second brain or the emotional brain. It's seen as the seat of intuition, instinct, where we process life, not just food. In Eastern thought, it's a center of chi, life energy. Western metaphysics links it to the solar plexus chakra, willpower, identity digesting experiences. And our language nails it. Gut feelings, spill your guts, gutsy. No guts, no glory. It takes guts.
Yeah, it elevates it way beyond the physical. It's about courage, truth, deep knowing.
It really is. It's tied to our core identity,
Yeah.
what we absorb from the world, how we react, what we release. And that gut-brain axis science is just reinforcing this ancient wisdom, connecting it directly to mental health. Think about ancient practices like haruspicy, reading entrails to predict the future. They saw it as a source of hidden truth. Even modern wellness trends like fasting or cleanses often have this underlying idea of purification, of letting go of what's toxic, physically and metaphorically.
So for Val, what's her gut wisdom? What do the intestines represent for her?
For Val, the intestines are her truth processor, her alchemy engine, really. She doesn't just react to situations, she digests them. She pulls the nourishment out of chaos, figures out what's useful, what's poison. She's a gut-driven strategist. Not impulsive, not purely logical, but operating from this deep embodied instinct that she's honed. She knows when to push, when to hold back, based on that inner sense. Spiritually, maybe she's metabolized past pain into wisdom. She's learned from difficult experiences and uses that insight. She sifts through life's messiness with this profound inner knowing.
Okay. From the depths of the gut, let's travel upwards to the brain, specifically the command center, the prefrontal cortex, that bit right at the front. It runs so much of our lives, maybe more than we realize.
Oh, definitely. It's arguably what makes us most distinctly human. The PFC, right behind your forehead. It's the brain's CEO, basically. It handles all the executive functions. Decision-making, planning, focusing your attention, solving problems, self-control, navigating social situations, working memory. It helps regulate emotions. It directs goal-oriented actions. It lets us think abstractly, plan for the long term, make moral judgments. It's like the conductor keeping the whole orchestra playing together, making conscious choices.
So central command for everything we think of as deliberate action, foresight.
Precisely. And it's constantly talking to other brain areas, the amygdala for emotion, hippocampus for memory, basal ganglia for movement control. It uses neurotransmitters like dopamine for motivation, serotonin for mood regulation. Developmentally, it's interesting. This is one of the last parts to fully mature, usually not until the mid to late 20s.
Which explains some teenage decision-making,
Right.
maybe.
Well, it certainly contributes. But the good news is it's highly plastic. It can change and adapt throughout life through learning, therapy, even meditation. Damage, though. Damage to the PFC can really disrupt things. Poor judgment, lack of impulse control, apathy, emotional instability. It's implicated in conditions like ADHD, depression, certain personality changes.
Okay, so it's the biological seat of reason and planning. How do we kind of personify that culturally? What does it symbolize?
Culturally, the PFC often gets cast as the strategist, the commander, the internal judge, or, like I said, the conductor. It embodies vision, restraint, foresight, wisdom, our moral compass. But it can also symbolize being stuck, mental fatigue, paralysis by analysis. Identity-wise, it's huge. It's the I that chooses. It allows introspection, willpower, ethics, thinking about the future. It's where our sense of self gets reflective, shaping who we want to be. Pop culture often pits it against the limbic system, the adult brain versus raw emotion.
The voice of reason.
Exactly. Philosophically, it's where intention meets action. It lets us imagine different futures, weigh consequences, override impulses, create narratives. It's tied to ideas of free will, the power to choose. It poses that big question, what kind of person are you choosing to become?
So for Val, the climber, the leader, what does her PFC represent?
For Val, the PFC is her strategic powerhouse. It's her mountaineer's map and compass combined. It symbolizes her clarity, her ability to see the big picture, even when things get incredibly complex and dangerous on the climb. She doesn't just react to the rock face in front of her. She's planning the route, anticipating challenges, considering the team. She chooses the right mountain, the meaningful ascent. Emotionally, it's not about being cold or detached. It's mastery over impulse without losing touch with feeling. It's that calm, focused fire you see in really effective leaders. Purposeful action.
All right, one final step on this journey. We're going even deeper, right down to the cellular level, the nucleus. Sounds tiny, maybe abstract, but it's the absolute foundation, isn't it? The command center within the command center.
It absolutely is. The nucleus is the cell's control room. Its main job, store the DNA, the genetic blueprint. And based on that blueprint, it governs which genes get turned on or off gene expression. This directs the cell to make specific proteins, which do, well, everything the cell needs to do. It handles DNA replication when cells divide. It manages responses to stress. Its role is foundational. It directs. It doesn't just react. The cell's life depends on it. Structurally, it's got that double membrane, holds the chromatin, the DNA, packed with proteins. It's usually central in complex cells, eukaryotes. Simpler cells like bacteria, prokaryotes, don't have one. Its evolution was likely a huge step in making cells more organized and efficient. And if the nucleus messes up, if gene expression goes wrong, that's where things like cancer, some neurodegenerative disorders can start. Damage here is often catastrophic for the cell.
It's fascinating. How can something so microscopic carry such big metaphors? What does the nucleus symbolize for us?
It's incredibly powerful symbolically. The nucleus often represents the core self, the soul, the inner truth. It stands for command, origin, authority, the fundamental blueprint or code. In any system, personal organizational feeling, it's the architect, the ultimate authority, the inner compass. Think of the rest of the cell as the workers, the ribosomes making proteins. The nucleus is the director telling them what to make and when. Psychologically, it parallels things like clarity, core values, leadership, deep intention. It's about identity processing the who behind the what. The idea that your actions spring from this inner code. Creatively, you could see it as the central theme in a piece of music, maybe, or the core concept an artist builds around.
The unshakable center point, the
Yeah.
essence that directs everything else.
Exactly. Culturally, think of the CEO, the visionary leader, the philosopher king archetype. Mythology might connect it to figures representing order or origin. Sci-fi loves the idea. The ship's AI core, right, is often the unseen power. Philosophically, it touches on that deep idea. You're not just your actions. You are the source choosing those actions. It speaks to authenticity, legacy, purpose that feels almost coded into you. It raises questions about destiny versus free will, what's innate, and what do you actively choose to express.
And finally, for Val, this deepest, most fundamental component, what is her nucleus?
For Val, the nucleus is her essence. It's the source code. Others see her actions, the strength, the guidance, the strategy. But the nucleus reminds us there's a fundamental purpose driving it all. It's coded in her core values, maybe her connection to ancestors, the conscious choices that define her mission. Metaphorically, she's the sovereign in the citadel. Her decisions, her leadership, they come not from ego, not from reaction, but from this deep, unwavering clarity about who she is and what she's there to do. It's foundational.
Wow, what a journey today. From the visible, expressive hair showing identity in motion, down to the hidden processing power of the intestines, that inner alchemy, up to the strategic command of the prefrontal cortex, Val's map for the climb. And finally, right down to the cellular nucleus, her core blueprint, her inner sovereign. Seeing how these parts work, both scientifically and symbolically, really does build a richer picture of someone like Val, or really any complex individual. It weaves together this amazing tapestry.
It really does. And it underscores that idea that knowledge isn't just abstract, right? It's most powerful when you see how it connects, how you can apply it. We've seen how even these, seemingly basic biological bits carry enormous symbolic weight. They shape identity, choices, how we navigate life. It's about seeing the depth in the everyday biology of being human.
So maybe a thought for you listening. As you go about your day, think about which parts of you, literal body parts, or maybe metaphorical ones, are really driving things. What's guiding your decisions from that deep place? What is your inner nucleus command?
Yeah, and maybe consider how might just acknowledging the wisdom that's encoded in these often overlooked parts of ourselves or even in others. How might that change how we interact with the world, how we understand what we're truly capable of?